right, Shane, take it away. Please.
All right, guys. So I want to do something that, well, a couple reasons I decided to do this demo. One, I'm getting to where I like making cable Damascus. I remember being a kid going to a tractor show and picking up a cable Damascus knife, thinking that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then I watched Lyle Win make one, and I was like, I'm gonna go figure that out. So about 3 cable knives later, I got it figured out, and I do it completely like Lyle does. I forge weld the ends, and then I go through. So that's what I'm gonna do today is kind of show you a cable Damascus knife. You know, I'm not gonna try to grind it to shape and everything like that. I put an iron hat. You can take it home, grind it, temper it, you know, harden and temper it yourself. But just kind of show you that, you know, even somebody like me who's only been doing this for a couple years, you know, you can forge weld. And I would say this about doing cable though, you know, you're going to mess up. You're going to burn through them eventually, especially in coke. I prefer to do mine in my propane because I can control the temperature better and I don't melt, you know, the wires. But I've been pretty successful in doing it here. So kind of a couple things I was going to show and pass around. And part of the hour and a half today, I found a guy that had a bunch of cable. So y'all probably know I've been bringing a bunch of cable around. So this piece of forge welded billet here came out of this 1.25 inches. And I will tell you this is a bear to get the forge weld. I have to do this one in my coat forge. And I've not found a good way to weld up the ends besides using a MIG welder. So I actually take a MIG welder, turn it really low, and I weld, and you can see it on that end right there when I pass this around. Now the rest of these, I've been pretty successful forge welding the ends together, and then I forged out the blade. That's what we'll do today. But if you ever do this, you know, I would highly suggest, you know, I mean, people may be better than I am, but I usually weld up the end and then I start cleaning the cable. So that's kind of what we're going to do, because a lot of people may wonder about, you know, doing cable. It doesn't matter what's on this cable. That coat forge is going to burn it out. So you may be looking at this grease and rust and everything on here. You ain't got to worry about it in that forge. That forge is going to take care of it. So what we're going to start doing is start getting it hot, and we're going to forge weld the end, and we're going to work our way down and just a couple inches just to get that we'll have a blade material. And then what I like doing, there's some people who will take this billet like I did here, and then they'll just make it a knife, put handles on it. But I like leaving cable as the handle. That way people know and can see very easily, you know, what it came from. And then we'll actually have to go back to the chop saw and we'll cut it off about, you know, an inch and a half from the end, and then we'll forge weld the end, and then that'll be your buttstock of your knife. So I'm gonna pass these around. Y'all can look at them, and this here is what I've done with this. This is the piece of that billet here. I just flattened it out and I put it in ferric chloride to etch it. So you can just kind of, if you've never seen forged cable Damascus, what you actually etch out, because it's all the same steel, right? So usually when we say Damascus, you usually have a high carbon component, and you have another high carbon steel that has a nickel in it. That way you get a contrast. When you etch it, you'll get a dark gray black versus a real, you know, light shiny material, and that's your nickel. With cable, when you start etching it, you're actually etching the carbon layer away inside. So that's why it looks like, you know, different colors, or you can see a pattern in it. You're not actually, you know, etching the metal because it's all the same. You're actually etching the carbon that was in between the individual pieces of cable. So then I clear coat this. I keep it for a demo piece just to kind of show people what it can look like. Like I said, hopefully we're going to be successful today, because I was going to practice yesterday, but home projects did not allow that. So, so like I said, we're going to start on the end. I'd highly recommend getting some of this Iron Mountain Flux if you don't have this. I mean, you can use borax. You know, I've been successful with it, but I've been more successful with this Iron Mountain. I don't know what kind of black magic they put inside of it, but it works a lot better for forging. Yeah, like regular borax, yeah, it's just the borax you get at the grocery store, Walmart, anywhere like that. Now, I keep some of that around just in case I want to, you know, if I'm trying to, pretty much on that big billet there, I don't want to keep using my Iron Mountain just because it takes a lot of flux for that. So I did use borax on that one, just because I didn't want to keep wasting that $25 bottle of flux there. So the biggest thing you're going to need, I guess why I'm letting that kind of preheat and get that grease off of it, you're going to need a V-swage. Now, I remember when I watched Lyle do it, you can use the corner of your anvil here on your cutting table. And he kind of, he forge welded it inside here. Me personally, I'll throw Mr. Milton, this is his V2 swage. That's actually what I use now, because when Derek designed this swage, he put some really deep V inside. So I've actually been pretty successful doing my forge welds inside this swage that Derek has.
That's a 60-degree V.
Yeah, 60 degree, yeah. So there, for that big cable, obviously that big cable won't fit down in there, so I actually just fabbed one. And I got a hydraulic press now, and I'm actually going to make one. I've been watching the guy, Randy, I think that makes the forge press tools, and he shows how to make one for a forge press. So I'm going to try to make one for a forge press because, well, like I said, welding that big inch and a quarter cable is pretty hefty. You're going to wear yourself out. So, but you can make us a simple swage. Now this one here, I didn't have any angle iron at the time, so I actually just use that's why it's a little off on one side, but I was just able to use a, welding magnet on the side to kind of keep it my angles, and I just welded it up. But you just need something, because when you're going to do your forge weld and you're hitting it in, you want that pressure, and you're going to be rotating it the whole time you're doing it, because you're trying to get this stick together. And it's the same with any other kind of forge weld. The first one is not going to be real light. It's just going to be closing the gap up. And then once you get it inside here, I'll switch over to another, the smaller size, and vice versa. And actually in my home setup, I've got one of Cross Center Ironworks' mini swage holders. I actually have Derek sitting here, and I'll have Oak Lawn's swage sitting next to it too, because he has a wider, I can't remember, his are like 45 V's, I think. So I'll actually swap between both of them sometime, depending on what cable I'm using. And one thing that I watched Lyle say, I've watched a couple other people say, is that when you're doing cable, just don't stick it in the fire and leave it there. So you're going to see me, I'm going to be twisting it for a couple of reasons. One, individually, those cables are going to burn very easily. So you always want to keep it rotating. You want to keep it, above your fire. You don't want to keep it down in it. So go straight. If you got a coat for it, you got propane to stick it in there. Propane's pretty simple. Just rotate it. And then only thing I'm going to try to do here is just get it up to a red heat on the end, and we're going to flux it. And then go back in, and then we'll forge weld the end. Because the next thing you're going to want to do once you get it forge welded on the end is we'll open it. We're going to put it on the post vise, and we're going to open it up and brush it out. And then that just helps take care of any kind of residues or anything that's inside the cable when we go to do our final forge weld.
Every once in a while, you might run into cable that's got a plastic center.
Yeah, or a rope center, yep.
It's a mess if you don't realize it.
Yeah, I've always heard if you see cable like that, don't try to forge weld it. It just makes, it ain't worth it.
You can see it usually. If you cut it, you can see the center of it. But if it's like really dirty and nasty, sometimes you might look and not realize what you're looking at. A lot of them have all
So you get plastic running out of your
it melts all in the forge, yeah. It's terrible.
If you do an induction, you have plastic all over your induction
Well,
coils.
it basically just becomes a really, really awful stuff.
Well, and that's what you're seeing. And that's what you're seeing here with this cable here, is that it's got a lot of oil on it, so it's just burning it off, but you just let it burn off. And I forgot to mention, when you're rotating it, you're act like you're tightening the cable. Because, yeah, it will unravel on you. All right, so I got that kind of just set of orange. And the only thing I'm going to do here is just real lightly tap. Like I said, you're rotating the tap. Only thing I'm trying to do right now, I'm not trying to weld it, I'm just trying to close the gap up. So you see, it ain't much of a diameter difference, but I'm just trying to close up that gap a little bit. And hopefully I'll get this to weld.
What's the purpose of using the V-dub?
Just to put the, from my understanding, like I said, I'm still relatively new to this, but because when you're hammering down, it forces the material into that V, and it helps close that gap better.
Yeah, I can't remember the actual geometric explanation behind the 60 degree, but there's something about the 60 degree where it actually hits all both sides. At 45, you hit more forces at the top, right? And the sides, I think that's right, yeah.
You can do it on flat, but you gotta stay on it.
Yeah, and I've
Rotate
seen,
it like crazy. to get it flat.
You can roll it through it.
I've seen
That's
people
right.
roll it there.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you can actually, you have nothing on flat.
6.5 degrees.
Yeah, on flat, yeah.
Right.
That's it. It's equilateral triangle.
Yeah, like I said, the first time I ever saw it done, and I may do it here in a second on that when I get down a little bit. So,
But as you're hitting it there, you're actually hitting it on three sides.
Yeah.
so you should start seeing it close up.
If you do it on a round swage, you really only hit top to bottom.
And I will say this: don't be afraid of flux on this one. Don't be forcing fire, happy like some of them guys are. But I mean, but you got to think about this. You're not trying to, weld, 2 or 3 pieces of steel together. You got hundreds of individual pieces here that we're trying to weld together. So you got to keep the carbon out of it, or the or impurities and stuff. So what we're end up going, not carbon, it's just scale. There you go. So what I'm going to end up doing here is that once I get it forged down and I get a solid end on it, I'm actually going to put it in the vise, and when it's hot, open it up and take a brush and just clean it out. And I just do that for the part that's going to be my blade, just to make sure I'm not fighting anything I can't see. But like I said, of all the things that I make, if you want to talk about selling stuff, I can sell these cable knives very quickly. I have never kept one any length of time. Now my axes are a different story. I can't sell them things. Vaughn's done tried a couple times for me. All right, so. And the only thing I'm doing, I'm not trying to weld anything but the end now, but I'm just trying to keep it closed up. Like I said, the first time I seen somebody, Lyle do it, that's the way he was doing it. And you can tell once you're hitting on, you go from that soft cable, once it gets solid, you can tell.
You can hear it too.
Yeah, you can hear it. So look, so that end's pretty solid. So I'm probably gonna do like one more heat. I'll come to that smaller suede, and I'll see if I can get it to close up a little more, and then we'll take it to the vise. And I will say this, if anybody gets interested in doing cable, I've got hundreds of feet of it, because I ended up finding a guy that all 3 of them rows right there, I had 100 to 150 feet each of them. So I cut them in 2 to 4 foot sections so you can do exactly what I'm doing here. Because I always hate when I get down to the end of the cable and I'm having to use tongs, to twist it. It's not as easy, so. And I'll mention this again, I am by me no expert. So I found this, and like I said, I just always enjoyed it. So I'm actually wanting to, I'm still trying to decide what I'm going to do with that billet there. I'll end up making some knives out of it, but I've got some smaller cable, like what's in that bundle. It's probably 1/2-inch cable. I'm actually going to try to make drawer pulls out of it, forge weld the ends of it, and kind of shape it to where it's a drawer pull. Of course, the only thing about propane forge, you got to watch it, so you'll lose the end of it before you know it.
Cold forge.
Yeah, cold forge, yep. Yeah, my propane, I've got the Mr. Volcano propane forge, and I've been pretty successful forge welding this smaller cable in that pretty easily. But the only time I do any forge welding with cable is in my Coke forge is that 1 1/4 inch, just because that Mr. Volcano just can't keep up with it. I got the one. So I'm gonna go back to my rounds. I'm pretty happy with that. So now we're going to go in. I'm going to go back. I want to go through my fire a little bit. So when you got a coat forge, your fire is isolated. See here. So I'm going to kind of push this in through. Because I want to heat up this section now, just the mere fact to burn off the materials on the outside of it. But then I can get it in the post vise and I can twist it open. And when you do that, you can. Most of this cable can actually open up pretty easily. Or you can make you a wrench like this. Just take an old pipe wrench. There you go. I swear, you get up here and your vocabulary just leaves you. So I just welded the end to it. Now for that inch and a quarter, you gotta have it. It don't like being untwisted, even at heat. And I've even taken an inch and a quarter experimenting, and I've used my acetylene torch. That way I can kind of isolate the heat better if it starts cooling off too quick when I'm trying to clean it out. That way you can close it back up. Because the biggest thing we're going to do now is that once I open it up, we're going to brush it out. I'll flux it. We'll close it up. Then we'll do another heat to it. Then once we get done with that heat, we're going to we're actually going to put it back in the vise, and we're going to try to clamp it tighter. So we're going to try to close that gap in the vise. So you can see that it comes apart very, very easily. So another good thing about the Iron Mountain is that you can, it can squirt. I haven't, but I mean, there's no reason you couldn't. Yep. Hey, that's why we're here. Help each other, right? I probably can do it with my hand. No, it'll be part of the blade. So what I'll do is once we get it shaped up and I get the end cut off and the end forge welded, I'll come back and I'll go ahead and profile the blade. I'll go ahead and because you're going to have, it's not going to be a real thick blade, but at least we'll put it down on the corner. We'll start drawing the belly out, and then we'll kind of get it to a knife shape. I mean, one thing you're going to notice on your ends, especially on this blade, is that you're going to have it looks like you're going to have wires sticking out. Don't be afraid of that, because maybe right there on the end sometimes, or on the outside layer, you'll have one or two wires that didn't stick. But once you start forcing down and you grind it, on your grinder a little bit, you're going to find that it was only one or two wires at the top end. Once you do your final profiling, that wire is usually gone. I don't think I've done one of these yet that's not had some wire showing on my forge welds. And the reason I use a bucket, because like I said, not all the flux that you pour out of that Iron Mountain flux is going to go on it, so I can keep using it. So now what we're going to do now is we're going to keep on, and then that section that I cleaned up, we're just going to keep forge welding it. And then, like I said, once I usually get about 5-6 inches of it, and then I skip enough. I usually do my hand width, because I got a pretty decent sized hand. So I'm figuring if the hand don't fit my hand, it'll fit most big guys' hand, and it'll fit smaller guys' hands too. So, wish you could do a volcano with this coat, but you can't. If you don't mean, or cave, a certain types of coat we had previously, you actually could build it up and actually have it where it was a cave, had a hole in it. So stuff like this, you can go in, you can watch it, but this gargantuan jump we got here, it's not I haven't figured it out yet. Maybe if Palmer figures it out, he can let me know. All right, so same thing. Just going to go back and since I open it up, kind of what I'm going to just, like I said, I'm not trying to forge weld it right now. I'm just trying to close that gap up. And you already can see what I'm talking about right there, if you can see it. There's a light, something to point to it better. There's right there on the end right there. There's a piece there. It's burned off. But like I said, I could tell that everything before it and hopefully everything after it will be forge welded. And then when you grind it, you'll just grind it off. I will say this is sticking better than I hoped it would. Well, yeah. Well, if you ever demoed, like even dare say, you can do it perfectly at home. You get here in front of everybody, and it's like everything goes wrong. Asked Jamie last week. He had a whole forge fall apart on him. So. So like I said, so when you're getting up to this this cable up to temperature, you're wanting to get to that, because like I said, this is still high carbon steel, so you got to get it pretty hot. You want to get past yellow, you want to start getting towards a little bit of white, But like I said, you got to keep it rotating though, or if you'll burn through one side. Ask me how I know. So, and like I said, when you try this, if you decide to try it, don't be afraid of burning cable, because like I said, it took me the first 2 or 3 I did. The handles was not, had wire sticking up. I just give them to people. I didn't even try to sell them just because I wasn't happy with them. About the third one, I got right. Now I've done half a dozen, probably 15 of these in the last couple of years, and I've still gotten to the point where every 2 or 3 I'll have some that you be doing the handle. Now what I do on those, I just cut the blade off and I'll use the blade part for a blade, and I'll just cut the cable I burned off and just use it for something else. And like I said, and as you start doing this, I can tell this is more solid up here. As I'm closing the gap back here, I can tell it's softer, so it's not ready to forge welding heat yet. But honestly, with that size cable, I'm probably not going to take it much farther than this, because once you draw this out, that's going to be a pretty decent sized blade there. So what I'm going to end up doing now is just focusing kind of here back, making sure it's good and forge welded, and then we'll jump down a piece and we'll start working on the butt of the blade for the handle. A little bit more right there.
Just got a little bit more.
I said, when it comes to this, like I said, I'm not afraid to use flux. It's because, like I said, on the coke forge, if y'all want to come see it, because I don't have enough coke on the forge, the last about that far of it is past the firebox. Okay, at this point, I'm not worried about heating it. I know it's welded. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to focus on that last little bit. But the biggest part of trouble I've had is not forge welding the cable, it's that transition. So if you want to try to keep that cable as a handle, it's that transition from that solid blade to the actual cable itself. That's what you got to be careful of, because the blades I said I messed up that had wire showing, that's where it was. It was that transition. And it's just feel and watching it. Like right now, I don't have a lot of coke on top of it because I'm trying to keep my eye on it so I can see what color it's getting. But even that big cable there that has all that, you know, dried up grease and rust in it, yeah, that forge will burn it out. So you ain't got to worry about it one bit. And what I'm looking for is I'm just trying to see if it's like, because I can still see a size difference. So if you can see there and there, the diameter is still, so I know I don't have it all the way fully forged yet because I don't have the diameter here that I have down there. So, and I mean, somebody who's more experienced may, you know, be able to do this quicker than me, but usually when I'm doing this, I just take my time. I'd rather go in the fire, you know, 1 or 2 more extra times to be sure I get it welded right than try to do it all one go and burn it up. Huh?
Or have it fall apart.
Yeah, Zach. Well, yeah, that's the thing. You don't have it forward welded. And what you can do when you're practicing is kind of what I did with that big cable. Whenever I got done with it, you know, in my mind, when I was doing it, I was like, okay, I think that's forward welded. So I took it over to the chop saw once it cooled down, and that first piece I passed around, that's what I cut off of it. Because you know, it was, you know, wasn't fully forge welded, but I wanted to see that when I cut it, did I have a solid billet, and I did. So it told me that the rest, and then when I cut the other end off, it was there. So I knew I had a solid billet. So now I'm gonna leave it until I get the good high heat on it, so I can try to finish that forge weld up. It's done got hot. Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting a suntan on that arm over here, so yeah. Yeah. Weather's a little better. Yeah.
They were all complaining about how hot it was. It was like 82 degrees. Don't come down to the
And you're like, you said they don't understand hot.
Pour a bucket of water on their head, palm in the head. You know, they literally were people walking around and going, whoo, hey, oh my. What part of Pennsylvania was it in? What part of Pennsylvania? It was in Johnstown, which is kind of, I think it's eastern side. Okay.
All right, so to me, this is forge welded. But if you're looking at the end of it, you can see, well, I still see some wire. You know, you can still kind of see the shape of it. But in my experience, usually, basically, I've done a bunch with this cable here. Is that I usually have a hard time getting that outside, you know, layer to fully weld. Now the inside of it's solid. You can tell if you heard it. You know, if you heard it when I was hitting on it, it was pretty solid because. I mean, it's the difference between.
Yeah.
So you can hear that I got that welded because it's solid, but there you got a soft. So what I'm gonna do now is I think I'm gonna go ahead, making sure that my handle looks good. So I'm gonna jump back to the chop saw real quick, and then I'm going to come off enough for my hand. I'm going to chop it off about 1 inch longer than my hand, and then we'll forge weld the end of it. And then from there, we'll start working on the actual blade itself. And I will say this about cable is, I always use like an abrasive saw or something like that because you try to, bandsaw, you're just going to dull the blade of it. Where are my tongs at? Well, I had some 5/8 round in here somewhere, I thought. 'Cause I'm just blind. Or I left him at home on my forge. There they are.
After you do all this, rather than try to take this
Hot stuff, hot stuff.
All right, so that's it. And then now we're going to work on forging the other end of it to close it up. Of course, it's the same practice even when you get it here. You need to be rotating it because you don't want to melt the wires on the end. What do you think that is? Well, it's cold brew, so it's at least cold. So. Hey, any questions? Yeah. So the same as you're twisting it here, act like you're tightening the cable. Yeah. And you know, and if you ever start doing it, you'll catch on real quick. You know, this right hand, no left hand. So I'm twisting to the left right now to keep it tight. See, before when I was in the other way, I had to twist the opposite direction because I was on the other end. So same thing. I'm just gonna now. Usually when it's that deep, yeah, it's to keep scale from building up because all this stuff here all that scale build up. That scale won't let you weld it. The metal will not stick to itself if it's got scale on it. I got your officer badge on the end of that table down there. Your board badge, yeah. Yeah, so it's not, and when you're welding, is always make sure you're acting like you're tightening that cable up. Because you can see it's already trying to flail a little bit on me. But like I said, I'm not trying to weld much, because I just want to weld just enough to have a little bit of a handle on it. But like I said, well, when I'm doing the butt, that's what I do. Since I keep that bucket, I just that's the reason I've always used that iron mountain over that bucket. That way I got a good layer of it in the bottom of it. So, huh? No, I think they're like 20, 25 a bottle now. So, I mean, it's good stuff. I mean, I will say this about, I forgot who was demoing one time and they were using that, and I went and bought some. I use way less of that iron mountain than you will borax. I don't know what mixture they have in it, but
It's just iron. It's powder.
it's iron powder in it. Yeah. I never researched to figure out what they had in it. So
So it actually helps fill in the gaps with iron.
It's got basically got iron dust on it.
Yeah, you can see it. It looks like little flakes on it.
Mark Lane does a neat demo where he forge welds mild steel at a red heat with that stuff.
oh yeah, I've seen him here. It's pretty neat.
And it sticks.
They want to put a little fresh on it now.
Just use your bucket.
There's a place in Flora that sells farrier stuff. It's like Flora Farrier Supply.
I was talking to Sandy when he was here last time. He was saying that they keep it.
They may not have it all the time, but you go in there and say, I need some, they'll have it in a couple days. Leave it one black
Like I said, yeah, I was talking to Sandy wasn't that long ago, and he said that they keep it.
Flora Farrier Supply. It's a little like if you go down into Flora like you're going to the railroad pizza. And you take a right. Right on the railroad tracks. Look around. There's a little building, a steel building right inside. Looks like a storage building. They have stuff there.
Like I said, you always got a few pieces like that that just don't want to stick. So, but it's on the end it's not stuck, but down it is. So when you get on the belt grinder, you kind of clean it up. It'll be fine. I think I'll do one more heat on it, and then we'll start drawing the blade out. Well, my version of drawing the blade, because I am not a knife smith. So. Oh, I know it. No, that's the problem. It took me 2 years to get my railroad spot knives to look like I want them to.
2 years from now, you'll look back.
I know, I've already done that. Because that first year I started doing it, because I was practicing so much, all the men in my family got a knife for Christmas. And it was all my first ones. And then my dad gave me his old one. He said, he said, can you put this in a sheath for, like I do leather sheaths now. And I looked at him like, you mind if I reforge that? He's like, I don't care. I'm like, yeah. I was like, I'm going to draw that belly out a little more now to make it look like a knife. Yeah.
My in-laws have one of my first hammers I ever made hanging up on the wall in their kitchen.
Okay.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's awful. Every
What?
time I go in there, I'm like, I gotta pick that up.
Well, that's what Dad shows. Dad shows that knife to people. It's like, Pop, I'm gonna bring you a better knife. Yeah, I don't want you showing that one off. I was at that first sermon I ever did. I was like, I don't want to hear that thing ever again.
I think that's the way it should always be. You should always be looking at your prior work going, oh, I'm doing better now.
First sermon, I remember preaching class and having they videotape you, and then you've got to take that form into the end and watch yourself on tape and critique yourself.
Well, my first sermon was on a cassette tape, so I'll date my, yeah. They told me about a couple years ago, the pastor at that church, and I said, hey, I found your first sermon. I'm like, you can burn it. I'm going to give it to your parents. No, I don't want to hear it ever again. Nope.
My first sermon,
I was 17 and it went 15 minutes. Everybody loved me that night, so yeah.
my first sermon.
All right, so here we go. So there's your end. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to heat it up, and I'm actually going to, I'm going to do my best impression of Lyle Wynn, and I'm going to try to forge the ball into the end of it, because Lyle actually it forges the ball into the end of that cable. And I've always liked it. The first couple ones I ground into it, and then because that's what Lyle said he started off doing, and then he said he finally learned how to forge it in. So I started challenging myself. Which usually what I do, I just hold it at an angle on a sharp edge, and all you're doing is putting a just hitting that chamfered edge into it. Like I said, most of it though, I'll put I would take it to a belt grinder and I clean it up, and then to me it's just something about just holding a knife that you got the steel cable as a handle, so they know 100%. It's like a railroad. I've seen some people take railroad spot to cut the head of them off, and they just use the steel. I'm like, man, that just to me, it just defeats the purpose of it, because I want you to know where it come from. Yeah, exactly. Because if I was gonna make you a scaled handle knife, I'll just get 1084, stock, and make a knife out of 1084 stock. Yep, I got wire breaking loose. Well, you can see, look, you see that one sticking up right there? Thankfully, when ones like that do it, I usually can, well, I don't think I got any needle nose on me, so break out the Leatherman.
Oh, I see a piece of wire now.
Yeah, might do a number on your hand.
Well, that was a great thing about it, though. It peeled up right to where it went under, so I was able to peel it up. So once you put your hand on it, you'll never know it. Yeah.
That could have been dangerous.
All right, so that's the forge welding part of this. So now I'm just going to work on just kind of completing the blade up a little bit. I knew I brought a sweat rack somewhere. Man, I swear, I lost over 100 pounds thinking, oh man, I won't sweat as much. Wrong. I sweat just as much as I did when I was 325.
What's not about weight?
It is not. Yeah, my Father's Day gift was like one of those, y'all seen those bucket hats that got the fans on them? Man, that thing's fantastic, except it only holds sweat here. It don't run out the bill, so it just runs down my face. I'm like, that just defeats the purpose. I'm that type of person. I got about 4 or 5 work hats. But literally, I basically work. I sweat through it, go inside, hang it up, grab the next one, and so here I'm not rotating it because, like I said, I'm not trying to forward weld. I'm keeping the heat really low because what I'm trying to do now is for the handle part, I want to tighten it up a little bit and I want to shape it. So, but I'm just trying to get to a red heat because with this cable, you don't need a very, very high heat to get that cable to move. So. Advice is my straightening jig, so yeah.
Everyone has their vices.
That we do. Now, one thing I like to do is, I may have to get it hot, yeah, getting their heat in it. I take my cable knives, I like to put a little bit of a downward turn in it. Because I did that one time, just kind of experimenting, trying it. And man, I really liked it. And then the guy I sold it to said, man, I like that downward turn on it, because I don't know what it does in that cable. It just makes it feel so much better to me. So almost everyone I do now, I don't put a straight handle on it. They kind of got a tail end down. You think I'm crazy? Welcome to Mississippi, YouTube. I know y'all gonna be watching this later, so. Yeah, and I will say, I still don't like seeing myself recorded, but I'll have this on YouTube sometime for the next meeting. Depends on my schedule, because I have to do it after work and been busy. Like I just got Jamie's up, about a week ago. So. Yeah. I'm that type of person. I'm the first time I heard myself on video. I kid you not. I asked my mom, I said, who's that redneck talking? Mom was like, that's you, son. No, ma'am, it's not. I don't sound like that. So I'm one of those people that I don't sound country until I hear recording myself and I sound like cornbread. So, okay, yep, that's me. I trip people out of work because I'm an electrical engineer and they hear me talk and they think I'm an alligator wrangler or something. Yeah. Yeah. But that's what I like doing, just something just that simple, just kind of a little bit of a downward turn. That's just my personal preference, so. All right, gentlemen, we're going to hammer this blade out a little bit. Like I said, I'm not going to try to finish it or heat treat or nothing, but I'll leave it in, I'll put it in an iron in the hat, so whoever wins it, just, I'll have the blade shape. Probably the only thing you should have to do is just take it home, belt grinder, whatever you got, shape it down, get all the loose wires on the outside of it off on the solid part, heat treat it, and then put your edge on it. I'm really happy that went way better than I expected. I was expecting to burn through that cable the first time.
Did that on my demo.
Yeah, burned up. I don't. Well, I was wanting to practice last night, but I was installing a pool for the kids, and that ended up taking way longer than I expected it to. So my wife's like, "You gonna practice?" I'm like, "Nah, I'll just wing it tomorrow." I've done about 18 of these, so. Well, I won't get. Yeah, honestly, I haven't made a cable knife since probably November. I had one for a Christmas order, and I'm not one of those people that forge every weekend. I forge about once a month because of work and church and everything else I do and kids and. But I will tell you this, my 9-year-old's gotten interested in it now, or she'll be 10 next month. But man, it just really surprised me how quick she has grasped onto it. That she can actually already. I started her off on the fire poker, kind of like we do in the green coke. So if you're new to this, every couple of months, we actually got to have one pretty soon. We do a green coal class, and we teach you to make a fire poker, and it teaches you kind of a lot of your forge welding and some of your other techniques. I mean, my 9-year-old can forge weld the end of it now by herself, and I'm preparing to do the Abana. I'm about to make the tools. I'm about to start making the tools. I want to get the Abana level 1, and she wants to do it with me. So me and her are going to both learn how to make the gate latch together. My 6-year-old, he's at the age that he thinks the fire's cool. He wants to get out there, then he starts getting hot, and about 10 minutes into it, he's done. So. Yep. They just posted that. Abana did. It was somebody in. Well, there's 2 of them. I can go back and find it. I think the youngest one in the States is 12. That passed level 1. I mean, they just posted about it within a few months ago. And then there was one in Australia. Yeah, that post. I mean, but and that was a girl, and she was maybe younger. I think she may have been 8 or 9. But yeah, it showed the video. Yeah, it was he wasn't. He's around 10 to 12 range. And it was the video of him. He was forging a solid. He went forge welding. He was actually forging just a solid bar fire poker, but I had a picture of him with his gate latch. So yeah, I mean, even at 12 years old, I think I put it in the member chat, or my board chat. I'll find it in a minute. So yeah, so now I'm just going to work on this. So the only thing I'm trying to do now is make a billet. So I'm just trying to draw, get it about. I like getting mine about a 1/4 inch. I like having a little bit of meat on it when I go to grinding, because even when you can start seeing even the top of it right here. That stuff's going to grind off and everything. So I want to give it enough meat so when you take it to a grinder, you'll have enough. Let me see if I can find that real quick. That was yeah. I remember seeing it to the board members going, well, there's no excuse for none of us if a kid can pass the level 1 Abana, the rest of us should be able to, right? See if I can find that. Yeah, I'm almost taking this for. I got the blades laying on top of the fire so they won't get that hot because it'll heat slowly. But I want to stand in front of my fan for a second too. I can't feel that one back there. Sure brought my big one.
Sucker rod, right?
Man, I didn't think it was that. Here we go. Colt. Yeah, if y'all want to see him, that's him. It actually don't give his age, but I think I saw somewhere else that he was around 12 years old. I will say though, when I'm trying to draw that blade out, I do like getting it pretty close to almost a forged welding heat again, just in case something inside is not stuck. When I start flattening it out, it'll make sure it is. So I'm gonna come back now and try to heat this section, and then I'll put a little bit of a shape into it, and we'll call it that for this demo.
How uniform is cable steel in terms of what kind of steel it is?
Like 1080.
Yeah, 1080. Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've quenched mine in this canola oil. I mean, like I got some. I brought some up here. I use Parks 50 now, pretty much almost for anything. It seems like I can just about. I got Parks AAA too because I forgot what I got. I don't remember because I wrote on the bucket on my holders what it does.
McMaster Car has some quench oil. They call it 11-second oil. And it's a commercial quenching. It's really good for 5160, but it also works pretty good for 1080.
Yeah, I ended up. There's a guy near me, near the house there on Trickenbridge that has a blacksmith shop, and I went to him and bought some 4-inch, quarter-inch wall square pipe. And if you make it 18 inches tall, it'll hold a gallon of oil. I saw a guy on Etsy do it, so I copied his design and I made my own. But it works out really well because, like I said, I don't have to keep 5 gallons of it. I can keep, it literally 1 gallon of it. So it's like, I did the math on it. If you ever want to know how to make them, and I just welded hinges to it, put a lid on it, but that way I can do a really long blade with a gallon of oil. So, and of course, I keep a brine for like railroad spikes because they're lower carbon than most things are. So if you're going to quench them, you got to quench them pretty hard. So I think the brine I made it. The guy who designed it called Super Quench, and it's like jet dry, Dawn dish soap, a couple of other things together. Yeah. What this water this brine's quicker than water. Yeah, if you just Google Super Quench, and you can find a recipe for it. I mean, I made a bucket of it 3 years ago. Now it started off blue, it's brown now because I've quenched enough blades in it, but it holds up pretty well.
Oh, I don't like my grilling tools.
Yeah, you don't quench that.
I don't really quench those. Now I do quench the meat.
Yeah.
I just do one with the HC spikes. They'll harden up some. You can definitely tell when you quench them versus when you
I've
don't.
got 62 on railroad spikes and
Yeah.
waters.
Yeah, it's
It's crazy how some of them will get really hard.
Like I said, all the spikes I got, I mean, I got those files. I get, you know, it goes 55 and 60. 60 will barely scratch them.
I
So
still have a couple of buckets full of HC spikes. If anybody wants one, I'll send
I've been
them.
thinking about it. So
I'll order a pallet of them.
I got a subfloor to replace next weekend.
A pallet of buckets of spikes.
Well, pristine ones, yeah.
A lot of spike knives.
Yeah, they are pristine.
Yeah, brand new.
They're just like that, which is not pristine.
I can definitely tell when I quench the meat fork. They get, it's hard, like, sometimes I'll quench it and then I'll realize that one of my forks is a little bit off. Try to bend it, like, it won't drop it. Really? So I'll have to bend it up again.
The last thing you want to do is snap the tire off.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're getting there. So at this point, I'm probably going to just looking at it. I got the end kind of where I wanted, kind of like in that 1/4 inch range. Then I'm going to heat the center section up. I want to bring it in a little bit more, and then I'll try to draw the belly out on it a little bit. 'Cause when I make my knives, I kind of go ahead and draw. I kind of already try to put a taper into it. That way, when you're on a grinder, you're not having to grind so much material off. Now I've seen some people that they'll actually, you can see it on the top side of that. You can see the cable top to it. Some people will just leave that there. You know, that way you can see the, you know, if you got some unforged cable. But I can already see the on it, and you'll see it in a minute. You can see kind of the twist in it. So I can tell this when you take it to a grinder and you get that surface layer off, and you put some ferric chloride or muriatic acid, and you kind of whatever you got, you'll get that. This one here, you ought to be able to see a twist in the blade. You can see the carbon twist. Like I said, this piece here was, I don't know, like I say, all cable does differently. When I forged this one down, it didn't really have a twist to it. It kind of like lay flat. So whenever I was hammering it out, even though I was twisting the cable, I guess because it was so large, the twist didn't stay in it. It actually just lay flat, but you can still see the lines in it. And then I just coat this with clear coat just because I don't want it to rust and stuff like that. You can still see a little bit gets through, but that's primarily just my demo to show people, hey, this is what cable looks like. And this is my suggestion. Others can maybe give you another one. Whenever I put my blades into a coat forge, I put them vertical, because if you lay them down to one side, your heat's just going to be generating on that one side instead of kind of it's more uniform if you keep the blade vertical. So actually, we're going to get somebody to hit that for me in a minute. Let's use the Brian Howes dog head. House made and gnome boards. Yeah. They did you know, like they did the $100 cross peen. They did the $100 dog's head, and I didn't have a dog's head hammer. So when they said it was $100, I'm like, you know what? I'll grab it. And the significance of a dog head hammer is that the people who swear by it say they say that it basically helps you form, the bevel better. I've used it a couple times and I can kind of feel it a little bit, but
It's a myth.
yeah, it's a myth. I mean, this is a cool looking hammer, so
And some people love them.
yep.
I've made a bunch of them.
I see. Well, Brian House made the house made grinder, and they started doing these $100 deals. So that's what. There's just a $100 dog's head hammer. So I've got a
There
cook.
must be a reason why the Japanese favored that type, because you can see that in a bunch of pictures of old, blade making.
Puts all the weight in the front.
Yeah, they have big ones
Gives you a
too.
different, yeah, it gives you a different angle.
Yeah.
Forge over their knees.
I was wondering too. Yeah, it stays a different, it puts you in a different position.
Really.
I just think it's funny. Anytime you ask somebody what they're going to use it for, they say, "Oh, I use it for forging bevels." I'm like, "Well, how does that help you forge bevels better?
Yeah.
Bevels better?" And I've never gotten a good answer.
Well, like I said, I've used it a few times. Like I said, you can tell the weight, the weight difference in it, but it's. Do I know it's a difference in it? Not really. So.
Well, I know people that's all they use for their blade spin.
Mm.
But I think any hammer you use consistently, you're going to get proficient. Could be, yeah. Some of them are actually made with a downward tilt to it. Some of them are actually curved. Some of them have faces that are angled,
So I got that blade pretty much even. I mean, I got a little bit down here, but on a blade, I kind of like it going to a more tapered point on it. So. All right, where'd my brush go? There it is. That's my superpower. I don't know if y'all had that problem, like you don't move and you lose something. Yeah. Okay, I'm not the only one.
My students got used to just telling me where stuff was if I stopped and started looking around. The dry erase markers over there. Oh, okay.
Well, even my wife will be out there with me, and I'll be on my, I'll be inside of like the floor doing something. And my wife's helping me, and she's like, "Where'd you lay it?" I'm like, "I haven't moved, so fine." Like my tools just like to walk off. So. Who wants to hit for me? Come here, Lou. Here.
Why not?
I'm just going to use a flatter to kind of flatten out the blade a little bit. Yeah. You use the hammer. Okay. I'm just going to tell you. Go. 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 All right, that's good. Yeah, that's a flatter. That's what it's for. So, what I want to do is get that blade as flat as I can get it. So, all right. So, let's draw a billy out on that thing. Then I'll be done with it. I don't mind forging blades. I hate finishing them. So if you win it, it's your job to finish. I mean, it'd be a cool piece though. Like I said, if you just get it, if you ain't got a grinder, just get you a flat disc. Just sit there and just I've seen people do all kinds of things to finish blades. You hand file it, hand file it. If you get it and you hadn't done a blade before, if you're going to grind your bevel into it before you harden it, don't get it thinner than a dime on the end, because one, you'll melt it. Two, You're just not gonna have enough there when you clean the scale off to put your edge on it. Yep. Everybody else is more of a placement than me can. Alright, so what I'm gonna do now is draw the belly out. Just used right here on the edge of the anvil, and I'm kind of gonna come in just. I'm gonna keep giving Derek all types of plugs. He's got a PDF out there, and that's how I learned how to draw bellies out. Your PDF on how to do a hunter knife.
Oh,
I kept having trouble drawing my bellies out until Derek has a PDF and go on the anvil, hit it right there. So, all right, so I think I'm gonna draw it out just a little bit more on the end, and then I'll just straighten it up, and it'll be ready for a grinder. Like I said, so you can see the edges of it. What I talked about. Sometimes with this cable, your edges, the outside don't fully get. But that's a solid blade. You can tell by the way it's shaped. It's solid. So once you get on the grinder, you get that outside layer off, it's going to be a solid blade. And I mean, I've had a lot of people that like it, like especially like up here, and you can still see the cable. I'll get it to where it doesn't poke you, but a lot of people like seeing that too. It just depends on who you're making it for. This is going way better than I expected it to. Jamie, you had me having nightmares, man.
Lewis, go stand in front of that fan, man.
I'm about as bad as he is. I brought that little one. That little one's pretty good. I can clip that on the mower, but I got a bigger one. I should have brought the bigger one. I was thinking, it won't be that hot for lunch. I'm wrong.
I'll stop looking this time of year.
I just rather not know. Well, I was out there yesterday, and it wasn't bad yesterday. But
Someone was posting about you doing posting a demonstration in your air conditioning shop. I guess they were mistaken. One piece of technology you know that.
Most of my shop is not insulated, and I have open rafters in most of the
Oh, so
ceiling.
air conditioning, that would be like.
Yeah. What's the point?
You literally be blowing money out of all the
Yeah.
gas.
I've thought about taking the time and effort to close it all in and putting one of those split units in, but it's just induction has kept my shop.
Bob, I'm glad we switched that around. Yeah, this thing was don't do that to me.
I used to do that. I was using propane for all the time I did it. I don't think I would be now. I would get up maybe at 6 o'clock in the morning and work for a couple hours. And I would look out there next door. These buildings like this with low ceilings, once the heat rises, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I can feel the heat above my head.
All right, so there you go.
Sitting there.
The rest of it will be on the grinder. So.
Yay for Shay.